You're now listening to Unfiltered with Mia, where filters fade and real connection begin. Each week, I sit down with inspiring guests, all share solo reflection for raw and honest conversation about growth, challenges, and the wins that shape us. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of Unfiltered with Mia. Today we have a returning guest. He's a good friend of mine. He's been back after over a year now. And today we have Sam with us. Sam is the founder of New Mind Chaga. He also has his own page called New Mind Coach because he's a neurotransformation coach. That's how I call it.
Correct, yeah.
And also he has a podcast called the New Mind Podcast.
Correct, yes.
So Sam, thank you for coming back after a long time.
Yes, it's good to be back. Always good to have beautiful conversations with you. I'm excited to see where this one goes today.
Yes, definitely. And I think the episode I recorded with you at that year, it was the first year of the podcast. At that time, it was Mia's World. And I'm not going to lie, and I'm going to be very honest, it was one of my favorites recording.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I always felt that you were, driving a beautiful conversation and it was flowing well. So I think that's the best thing is when it flows with no agenda,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the reason why today I wanted to have you on board is obviously we know what's going on at the moment with the wars. And obviously before we used to see it more as I would say external point of view because there was the war with Gaza and all of this. So we were experiencing it from an outside perspective. But end of February, we got to experience it, I would say, a bit more internal than before. And what led to that was a lot of people panicking, a lot of uncertainties, because it almost reminded me of COVID period, because we didn't know when would this end, what was happening, a lot of uncertainties in all the areas, people losing their jobs, not knowing, should we go home, a lot of people panicking. But one thing that actually brought me a lot of peace was actually listening to your reels, because you talked about how to deal with uncertainties. But before we go into that, explain to me, why do we panic in our mind so quickly that we almost lose ourselves when something like that happens?
Very good question. So one thing we need to remember that our mind, when we talk about the mind, there's the conscious mind and there's the unconscious mind, right? So there's a lot of prime directives of the unconscious mind. These are like responsibilities, or should I say duties. And one of the prime directives of the unconscious mind, which is the greater mind, is to keep you in what we call the familiar. Okay, they call it the psychocybernetic mechanism. So it feels safe when everything is familiar, right?
Okay.
So when any time when anything comes into our existence, our reality, our life, where some form of familiarity is taken away and we don't know what is the predictable, meaning what's going to happen tomorrow. So because our mind is predictable, it's always trying to predict things.
Absolutely.
Then it starts to create what we call a bit of a panic, right? So fear usually comes up, anxiety comes up because we're sitting in what we call the unknown, right? So that is the fundamentals of why do we feel uncomfortable, or why do we have these emotions, or this certain people have certain panics, certain people having light anxiety, whatever it is. It's all about moving away from predictability to what we move into unknown, right?
Yeah.
So that's what causes that sense of uncertainty, and certainty is also one of our core human needs. So we need to have some form of certainty. So in COVID, most people struggled because it was even harder in COVID, because not only certainty was taken away, but love and connection was taken away. There was a sense of even the element of moving away from isolation. So there was more of unpredictability of what's going on. But then all of that, if that's taken away from us as a human, as our human makeup, we start to disintegrate. We start to feel that that something is wrong. So the alarm bells, the threat, everything starts to become more real in our mind.
Right. And would you say it's a similar thing when we have that? Because for me personally, I am someone, I think a lot of us can relate to that. I am someone who likes to control what I do.
Yeah.
So when you come to situation like this, you're out of control. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And obviously we remind ourselves like, yeah, okay, we just have to go and take it a day at a time. But deep inside, something else is happening. It's like a alarm bell ringing constantly and telling you, yeah, you don't have control. And it affects so many areas of your life.
Yeah. It switches you into a sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. Now, again, it depends on the person, right? It's a good point what you're saying. So you, for example, would have a certain difficulty because your conditioning, meaning your identity, is wired to be one that is in charge,
Yep.
in control of certain things, right? So now you'll find other people that are a little bit more okay with not being in control. So therefore they will have should I say a less of a reaction to the uncertainty, right? So it's all about, and this is why I speak a lot in my social, in my tribe, in my community. I'm saying that we're moving into a timeline now in the world, never mind in our region, where we need to develop a skill and cultivate the ability to be comfortable in the unknown, to be comfortable in the uncertainty. And this is something that we can cultivate. It's not something that is, it's a switch. So you need to learn there's techniques, there's tools, there's working on your inner world to be able to change the perception of your outside world to go, oh, I'm okay if I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. And I can speak for myself. Like the line of work I'm in and the wellness brands that I've, the New Mind brand or my coaching institute or the things I've created, a lot of the time when I started that journey almost a decade ago, moving from a corporate world, moving to a fixed salary, moving to everything that is known. And I had to go, I want to turn into a form of an entrepreneurship and run my own life and take my freedom in my own hands. It was a very hard period of my life, especially in the beginning. Why? Because I moved from a 15-year experience of having everything controlled and I know everything systematic versus jumping and throwing myself in the unknown, right? So I can tell you from experience, like this experience that we had, I was very calm compared to others. Why? Because I cultivate and I'm very used to not knowing what's going to happen next month, not knowing what's going to happen in so I've trained my mind to be able to be okay with the unknown. In fact, I have a good relationship with the unknown because of my background and studies. I understand that the unknown from a quantum level and from a neurological level, it's the place of potential. It's a place where everything exists there. So it's exciting for me. When I see unknown, I'm excited. Other people, unknown, they freak out. So it's how your relationship is with the unknown is very important. So all my clients, all my students, all my tribe, I'm always coaching them to become more stronger and more resilient in the understanding that they can go through a phase in life where there's a lot of uncertainty and think about the world that we're moving into is all about uncertainty now.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that answers the question.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's so many other questions popping up because for me it's like I completely understand and I've seen it in many people.
Yeah.
Obviously when it happened we were surrounded by, thank God we were surrounded still by people, but everyone took it in a different way.
Yeah.
For example, I still remember when it started, I was very relaxed and chilled about it. And then in the evening when things started to go bad, my brain started to envision so many things that I was like, okay, now I'm panicking actually. Yeah. And that messed up my sleep.
Of course.
That messed up everything that I was attaching on things or people that I knew was like safe. And that was about it.
Yeah.
Because that was the only thing that was safe in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that being said, obviously there's a part that, let's say when we try, so many times I try to refrain my mind from thinking negative. And you're like, no, today's going to be another day. It's going to be a good day. We got this. We trust the process and all of that. But how do you deal when everything is, for example, WhatsApp groups or anyone that you meet at the gym or anywhere in your surroundings out and about? One of the first conversation would be, oh, how are you dealing with things? Oh, I've lost my job. Oh, this. And how do you give space of like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, but without letting that getting to you, because I am one of the people that I absorbed it.
Yeah.
As much as I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, but I was absorbing all of that, and I was like, oh, all right. So now I am also worried because that person said this and that as well.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So one thing we need to know, we go back to the prime directives of the unconscious mind, is that we take everything personal.
Yep.
So if someone is sharing a story, if we're watching a movie, a horror movie, even just a movie, remember, we react to that movie, right? Our body reacts to it, even though it's a movie playing in front of us and we're not in the movie. So when we understand that the mind takes everything personal, we start to have a sense of responsibility of how do we have healthier boundaries for ourselves, especially if our conditioning had a lot of fear in the past, right?
Yeah.
So one thing is very important to understand is that everyone is wired differently.
Yep.
Right. And based on our conditioning and what we've been through in life, a lot of people that have a lot of anxiety, for example, in life in general, forget about what's happening now, just in general, the reason they have a lot of anxiety is because if you look back in their timeline and you look back at their childhood and their upbringing, they would have multiple experiences in their life where they had fear.
Yeah.
And fear creates a charge in the body and it creates a perception. It gets stored in the body. So what happens is when they look out into the future, and if the future is unknown, the body doesn't, what's the reference of the body? What's the reference of the mind? It's like what happened in the past.
Yep.
So it will go, well, that might happen to me again, or that's the stories that I've experienced, which is a lot of fear. So my projection in the future, which is the unknown, will be perceived in a fearful manner, which is anxiety. So anxiety is the only emotion that comes from the future.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? So that's what happens in the mind. So firstly, in my line of work, which I love to do, is I like, okay, so if someone has a lot of anxiety, I go, okay, so before we look into your anxiety, let's look at your conditioning. Let's look at your makeup, your identity right now. Are you a fearful person?
Yeah.
Are you someone that had a lot of experiences where you got disappointed, where you got hurt, where you got, in some form of insecurity around trust, for example, because unknown is a relationship with trust.
Yes.
So if you have lack of trust in yourself or in the world, the unknown is scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got what I mean?
Yeah,
so you have to
absolutely.
work with your conditioning to understand, okay, the fundamentals first is my inner world. So that's number one. So always I invite everyone to also look within and go, my history, my conditioning, my childhood, there's work to be done for all of us, including myself. I had to do this work as well. It's like, what can I let go of the past that is sort of lingering in influencing how I think about my future or how I think about the unknown?
Yeah,
so you clear that up. Then there's a responsibility on all of us to go, yes, I can be compassionate with you when you share your story. But if I know myself to be a little bit more sensitive, like you said, Sam, I feel. For example, what you just said is, I feel with people. That is also an identity that you've chosen to feel.
Yeah.
Right. My line of work is you can imagine the stories and the things that I do. Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm very compassionate to, and I'm there to help. But if I had to choose to have an identity that feels, I wouldn't be able to do my work because I would be drained at the end of every day, and I'd be like, oh my God, that story happened. So I would take everything personal. So it's also a decision, as well as a healthy boundary and some work that you do where you'll be able to create space where you can come and share, but I can also with love say, okay, I know that part, I'm going to, that person that constantly comes and gives me, like sends me all the latest in the war and everything and the constant, there is a moment where you could say, hey, I really appreciate you updating me, but you know what? It's a little bit overwhelming. Please, from a place of love, can you stop doing that, for example? So that's a healthy boundary because it's affecting you. So you have a responsibility to say that. Also, you have a responsibility to avoid certain people because their way of dealing with it is talking about it and sharing and no judgment. But you know what I mean? So it's about healthy boundaries. And it's about how it makes you feel in the body, those information, and also changing your identity and going, I have the ability to listen to you with love, but also understand that it's your story, not mine.
Of course, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I completely agree with you. And I like that. And coming back to obviously what I am thinking right now, I understand and I can see, obviously, you've mentioned that you've cultivated this over the years of, you've done the work, right? And to a certain extent, I still believe that people need to be aware of like, right, at the end of the day, there's that much we can raise awareness, but you have to take the step into it, right?
100%, yeah.
So, for example, I realized that, okay, I'm not okay with uncertainties, right? Now, you've taken a lot of amount of time. But let's say, I'll use my example again. Let's say that is happening right now, okay? And I need to be okay with this uncertainty.
Yes.
What are, you would say, the tips or tricks or tools that I could use on a, obviously it is a long-term goal, and we'll talk about it, about how to develop that. But what is the short-term fix?
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so I just came off now a workshop that I had in collaboration with the Man Cave project. We had about 21, 22 men in the room, and that's the question that they rose, right? They're like, we are, we want to be able to know in the moment how to overcome anxiety, how to release it, right? I understand I need to cultivate it over time and I need to do the work, but I don't have time to do the work right now, or it's going to take a while. Good question. So there are tools, right? There are certain modalities which in a period of an hour that I can coach someone, literally, that will allow you to be able to release anxiety, speaking the language of the mind. So for example, there's a therapy that I'm a practitioner in called timeline therapy. So the brain, and the subconscious mind has a relationship with time in relation to its body, right? Okay. So what I mean by that is that if you have a conversation with someone and you say to them, hey, my future is bright, and you'll notice they'll point in front of them. Some people will point to the left, some people will point to the right. Some people will say, oh, my past, and they'll point to the back, right? So subconsciously, there's a relationship between the body and time, direction, right? So in one of these therapies or one of these modalities, you are able to direct the body out of the stress and anxiety by simply closing your eyes and going out into the future where you are worrying about. Because when we have anxiety, what are we doing? There's the mind, either consciously or subconsciously, is going, there's something out there, the big bad wolf is there. It hasn't happened. I'm sitting on my couch, I'm relaxing, but I'm seeing the worst case scenario, like what happened with you, right? Yeah. So the mind is playing a movie in the brain, and literally it's feeding the brain and the whole body the stress hormones, the emotional charge. So there's a way, what we call the pattern interrupt. So for example, for your audience, which I'll give a little example, is that when you are anxious, when there's something really happening, the first thing you need to do is to stop what you're doing and sit up straight. And first thing is quiet your body with breath. So you breathe in through the nose for a count of 5, and you breathe out through the mouth for a count of 5. Or you breathe in for 3 and out for 6. That's even better. So in for 3, literally going, and then you're counting, and then you're breathing out 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why is that important? In for 3 and out for 6. That is now speaking language of the body. It's saying, hey, body, you're moving from sympathetic, which is fight or flight, to parasympathetic. So you do 10 of those, literally 10 of those. And what will happen is slowly the body will switch, and that will help the brain and the mind to change the movie. Okay. Absolutely. Then what you do is you say to yourself, well, what am I really anxious about? Oh, I'm anxious about what's happening. No, but you're anxious about what's happening, but you're not anxious about what's happening. You're anxious about something happening to you.
Yes.
Okay, so what does that look like? So you go like, well, I'm worried something would happen to me, like I would get hurt, like something would, something would blow up around me, or something dangerous would happen to my well-being. Yeah. Okay, so there's in your mind, there's a picture of that. There is something. So what you do in that moment is you take a pause and you go, okay, that's what's really making me anxious, not the war.
Yeah.
The war can't make you anxious. It's what's happening to you within the war.
Exactly.
So once you find that, once you identify that, you jump to the other side and you go, well, hang on, what would I like to see instead?
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
So what would I like to experience instead? And in that moment, what you're doing is you're telling the mind, I'd like to see myself walking out of the house, buying groceries or going to gym and sleeping well tonight, and everything's going to be fine. So you have to feed the mind the polar opposite of what you're freaking out about.
Okay.
So you're changing the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And you literally picture it in your head. So you close your eyes and you start picturing that outcome that you want. Of course, the modality, there's more technicality, but I'm just giving you some tips of what you could do. So the breath is number 1. Number 2, identify what's actually making you feel anxious. Because a lot of people, I'm anxious about what's happening. Or what are you anxious about? then you dig in a little bit and you're like, oh no, that's really what I'm anxious about. I'm
Yeah.
anxious about my well-being. I'm anxious about something happening to my job. I'm anxious about, okay. So if you're anxious about losing your job, what's the opposite?
Yeah.
Not losing your job.
Exactly.
How do you see yourself in the future not losing your job? So see yourself in the future 6 months from now, still doing your job and coming home and getting your salary and being happy, and play that in your mind. Then what will happen is the mind will start to go, oh, okay. That's where we're going. And that's the future unknown. Is that making sense?
Right, absolutely. And I love that. And definitely I will try that.
Awesome.
But now I have to play devil's advocate here. And I will say, okay, so I'll come to you and I'll be like, Sam, okay, that works. But for me, and I'm sure a lot of people likes to plan ahead, you know, like I think most of us had a feeling, okay, 2026 is going to be like this, look like that. We're going to do this. And then disruption happens.
Yes.
Where things doesn't actually go as per plan, right? And sometimes that would cause anxiety as well, because you're like, right, now that everything...
What's causing anxiety?
I would say, okay, I'll talk to me, right? To myself, to my own experience. For example, my anxiety, it started with, right, we don't know when this is going to end. We don't know how this is going to, until when this is going to affect the economy. When will everything will go back to normal per se? And a couple of plans that I had for 2026 is now being this completely disrupted, in the sense that it's not going in the timeline that I had, and then I start being anxious about it.
So that timeline that you're talking about, was it ever guaranteed?
No, that's true. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was all in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing is ever guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Right? So the only thing that you are guaranteed is the generous present moment. Right?
Absolutely.
So when you first understand that was all in your mind and you're also giving yourself a story right now because of what's happening now, that's no longer guaranteed.
Yeah.
Or because even if this didn't happen, nothing is guaranteed. Even that plan that you put. So the one thing that creates anxiety for some people is the expectation that they set out. And when the expectation is very rigid and it's not going according to the rigidity of the plan, then that plan will never happen.
Yeah.
So we're tying so the idea is to loosen up a little bit. I know where I'm going and I know that's where I want to go. But also I need to understand that nothing is guaranteed, and the best I can do is to control the now moment towards that outcome. Okay. So if I can change the relationship I have with that future outcome, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, everyone sets plans, everyone has the vision board, everyone does all of that, which is great because that gives you direction. But we all know, if we want to be honest with ourselves, that none of that is guaranteed. It's all in our mind.
Absolutely.
So if we can have a better relationship with our expectations and more go, what is it in my control today that I can manage today that will make that future outcome come into life with the uncertainty of it all, with the difficulties that we all face, with the economy going up and down? Because there's never, because that's things that we also have to learn that we didn't have control over in the first place, and we will never have control over it. But what we have control over is ourselves and how we manage that within us, right? Yeah. So that's because if, again, the rigidity of expectation is one of the biggest problems we all face today, because we have set ourselves a standard, set ourselves certain things, and the moment something goes a little bit off, we crumble because we create disappointments. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if we can have a better relationship with, that's my direction, let's not be rigid about it. And also let's be more adaptive and adoptive, because I think now, again, the age of we're moving into, we have to change. As AI is evolving and everything's evolving around us, we have to evolve. We have to evolve our mind. That's why I say you have to create a new mind. That's where the new mind aspect comes in, the intention behind it. Because if we don't develop a new mind, we will stay stuck in the past and everything else looks anxious and frustrated. No, we have to be able to go, okay, so what are the new skills of the future today? More adaptability and adaptability. Less control over outcomes, because that creates also trust in the unknown. Also, managing the now, because all we have is this generous present moment now. We can't guarantee what might happen in 10 minutes from now.
Absolutely.
We don't know. So if I know that we don't know what's going to happen at 10 minutes from now, I better really make the best of this beautiful moment with you right now, right? And I
Absolutely.
got to just operate from the heart and be grateful that I'm alive, grateful that I'm breathing, grateful that I get to do what I'm doing with you right now. And am grateful. But if I start to go, but what's going to happen next? And then I'm robbing myself from this present moment, this generous moment right now, which is all we have, by the way.
Absolutely. I agree.
It's all we have, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely agree with you. And I love that because, again, it's down to live in the present moment, feeling grateful for what we have now.
Yes.
And I think in any books that you read or any podcast we listen to, gratitude comes I think I've heard gratification so many times on repeat, and people don't realize how being grateful for just now, being able to breathe, being here with you, how much that means a lot and how much that changes the narrative of how you see life.
Of course, but it changes your energy.
Absolutely. And I have a question.
Sure.
So how do we become friends with our mind?
How do we become friends with our mind? Well, I think there's again a great question. I think the most important thing is to have a good relationship with your mind is to understand how your mind works.
Okay.
So one of the things that I do in my work, I called it the foundations. Anyone that works with me is I'm like, I want you to get the blueprint, the manual. How does my mind work? And how do I have a better relationship with the mind? How do I understand how to communicate with the mind? How do I reprogram my mind? How do I develop and cultivate not only a good relationship, but also cultivate a relationship that allows me to evolve my mind so that I can become more adaptive and more adaptive with everything that's constantly changing outside of us. Remember, it's like upgrading your software of your computer. If you don't upgrade the software of your computer and you download new programs, things are going to get slow.
Absolutely.
Things are going to get difficult. Tabs stay open and you are jumping from one thing to other. The RAM, the memory, all of that needs to upgrade it. And with neurotransformation, this is why I love my line of work, is that literally that's what I do with my work is I upgrade the mind and I go, where's your mind at? Because everyone has a level of mind differently, right?
Yeah,
based on their past, based on their conditioning, based on the knowledge they have, that they got exposed to in life. And when you're able to go, well, where do you want to go in life? What is important to you? Because everyone has a different importance, right? When you understand that and you marry that, then you go, okay, so first learn how your mind works, learn how to speak to your mind, learn how to program your mind, and learn, more importantly, how to have a loving relationship with your mind. That's the internal identity, the self-worth, the self-love, because you have to have a good relationship and you have to have a loving relationship and not to judge your mind, because your mind is, again, it's been conditioned. Family, culture, ex-relationships, schooling, all of that was data dumped in. We didn't even choose to change. No one came to us and said, hey, you're about to go in grade 1. Would you like to learn this or this or this?
Yeah.
Would you like to believe in this or this? There's like, boom.
Yeah.
We get forced, we get conditioned. This is what conditioning is. We get conditioned to believe certain things that are run in a certain way. And we didn't have a choice.
Yes.
No one gave us, no one said, is it okay? I'm about to condition you to think this is how it works. You're going to go to hell. You're going to go to heaven if you do this or you don't do that. You're going to have to be this person. And this is the history. And today we're learning that most of the history we've been taught is a lie.
Yep.
So, history, his story, it's someone else's story that's been fed into our nervous system, into our mind.
Absolutely.
So there's a responsibility today to go, what can I unlearn? Think about it. Like, what can I unlearn that's making me see a reality in a distorted way? What can I learn today that I know it doesn't sit well with me? It's not helping me in my life today. This learnings that I've been conditioned. And I say that with love, like a lot of things it's just, it's genealogical. So it's passed down by generation. And no one knew that they were wrong when they said that to you. Some people did it unconsciously. Some people did it intentionally as well. Some people fed us information intentionally to control humanity, to control the way we think, to control our mind, right?
Yeah,
so when we understand that fundamentals, that is where we start, is building a better relationship, learning how the mind works and learning to unlearn. A lot of people want to learn more information, but they forget that they can also unlearn
Yeah,
information.
absolutely.
You need to clear up some space to learn new data, you know?
Absolutely. And I think also, like you said, as we grow up and as the generation is going on, there's a lot of things that what we used to think was fine was not fine anymore,
Yes,
you know, and it's
100%.
okay to see that, you know.
100%.
A lot of people feel like, oh, we're going to be judged for feeling or saying or thinking a certain way. And today I always tell people, no, this is the beauty of individuality, is that you have your own perception. For example, for me, if I was not open to understand what you would see or what X would see or Z would see, I would not get to experience something better.
Of
You know,
course.
for example, I don't know. We might go, let's say, to an event or something like that, and then you will tell me, oh, you know, the music was beautiful. The other person will tell me, oh, the atmosphere was amazing. Someone else will be like, oh, did you see the setup? Everyone's perception is different, but that's the beauty, and it's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong.
Yes.
You know, and then you take what's right and you disregard what you
100%.
feel is
That's
wrong.
an open mind, right?
Exactly.
That, you know, it's not sticking to rigidity. You know, one thing I've learned over the years is I don't have to be stuck in my own perceptions. I don't have to be, I want to always be open. And I actually like when people challenge a perspective I have.
Absolutely.
Because I go, wow, that's nice, because that's allowing me to develop my mind in a new way. And most people, the unfortunately, the ego takes over. Is like, I don't want to be wrong, even though part of them might know that they're wrong. But just because the point of they said that point, they don't want to back down because they said that point, even though the evidence is showing, even though that the like facts are right there on the table, but they would choose to, you know, cognitively go, no, that's false. I don't want to believe in that.
Yeah.
I want to stick to the narrative because that narrative is familiar to me, right?
Absolutely.
So again, part of the evolution of us today as humans and the level of mind is to be able to be open like yourself. And this is something very good. I've known you for a few years now. You're very open-minded, and you're, even if you know, you come from a school of certain way of looking at things, but you go, that's interesting. And then you would allow that information to come into your mind and then see if it resonates with you. If it resonates with you, then there's going to be that intuitiveness that says, actually, that feels right. You know, it makes sense in a way. I'm open to learning something new and then adding to what you have and maybe letting go of an old way of seeing the world or seeing yourself. And that, what I feel, is the evolution. Otherwise, we will never evolve if we want to stay to the old beliefs that we hold and the old way of seeing the world. And my mom was right, or my religion is right, yours is wrong. We're never gonna have these conversations where we evolve. You know,
100%, I agree with you. So we've talked about short-term tricks to obviously get to when we go through uncertainty, anxiety, fear of the future. If you were to sum up, because I'm sure there's deep, obviously we can dive deeper into that. But out of curiosity, for me, if I want to learn in the long run, let's say I'm starting today and I'm going to make it a mission that in, I don't know, maybe 1 year down the line, I don't deal with uncertainty the same way that I've dealt with uncertainty.
You wouldn't need 1 year. With my line of work, honestly speaking, just 2-3 months. Okay. So is the question, how do I evolve and being so resilient with uncertainty? So the first thing we would need to do is we would need to let go and release on a neurological and a nervous system level all the emotions, the unprocessed emotions of the past. So what's important for you to understand is that our mind, a lot of the things that we have experienced in life is suppressed in our body. It's suppressed that we don't even remember when we had fear, when we had disappointment, because we can't keep track of everything. The mind, we would, you know, it will be too much energetically, it will drain us. So what the mind does, it will remember only a few events in your life where you had fear. It will take a screenshot of it and go, I'm going to remember those, because when it happened, there was a heightened emotional experience. The mind took a screenshot of it and it goes, here you go, I'm going to remember that. Okay. Now, my line of work is I'm not only clearing the charge, which is the emotion around those memories, which is what some people call it traumas. I don't like to use the word trauma that easy because trauma is a big word. And I like to say small T's, small traumas and big traumas. But let's just say all of us go through these emotions, everyone, no one excluded, we go through these experiences, but the role is to go into the area where everything's suppressed, where you can't even remember.
Yeah.
That area is like the bulk of your emotions, the bulk of your fear, the bulk of your insecurities, the bulk of your anger, your frustration, your pain, your hurt. So my role would be first to clear that off your system. Okay, so I would literally clear all of that, and that's very powerful, William, because what happens is you literally can go and close your eyes and play any traumatic experience or any event in your past, and you will feel nothing in the body. Like you'll be like, oh my God, Sam, I can see the memory. I literally went back to one big event in my life and I feel so at peace with it. Now, what happened in that moment is that the mind let go of the charge and it just let go of the meaning, and it went, okay, that was just simply an experience, but the emotion is being processed. So there's nothing stored in that emotion. It's like they're not together anymore. It's not alive in your system. Okay. So that what will that do? It will allow you to now have a better perception and a better quality of mind when you look out into the future. Because you said to me, Sam, how do I have a better relationship with uncertainty? Because what is uncertainty? It's unknown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So why do people fear of the unknown? It's because when they think about the unknown, the first reference point is, well, what do I have in my system that is going to dictate my future? Oh, I have a lot of fear. So therefore, fearful future.
Yeah.
But if the brain or the body goes, oh, I don't have fear, therefore I'm neutral. So then you have more authority and more capability of painting the future on your terms, not on your past. So your past is no longer dictating your future. You are dictating your future. Absolutely. Is that making sense?
Absolutely.
So the work would be first releasing the past. You have to overcome and unlearn, let go of the past. Cool. Then I'm sitting back back to the drawing board. Oh wow, this feels amazing. I'm not influenced by pain or fear or emotional hurt or guilt or shame or anger. It's all cleared in my system. Amazing. What's next? Now you can have a drawing board and go, how do I want to think about my future? What the beliefs do I have about my future that I might have developed from my past? Well, you know what? I believe, because my dad constantly said that you have to work hard to survive. So that means if I am without a job in the future, that means I will not survive. Do you see how I'm showing you that? Okay.
Absolutely.
So that now is a chain, right? So is it healthy for me to believe that I have to work hard to survive? Is it a healthy belief? Is it an empowering belief? Is it an empowering perception of life? Not really. I have to work hard to survive. Then, oh my God, if I'm not working hard, I'm not surviving. Oh my God, if I don't have a job, I'm going to die. Something's going to happen to me, or I'm going to be in the road, right? So now that creates a theme in the future that is so fearful when I don't have a job, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to go back into your neurology and go, I don't think that belief that my dad did it with love, I don't think that belief, and I'm just using that as an example, is serving me today, because it's affecting my filters of reality, my perception into the future. So what would I like to believe instead? That's my work, right? So I'll be like, well, let me believe that the opposite, I work hard to survive. No, I will always survive no matter what. I will always be safe no matter what. Now, if I have that subconsciously wired in my mind, and I look into the future, is the future going to be more safer? Of course, because I will always survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing, no uncertainty, no level of discomfort, no level of unknown will ever affect me from not surviving. Because the old story is you have to work hard to survive. But if I'm not working, or if I'm not working hard, I will survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see the difference?
Yeah.
So now the narrative changes internally, the mindset changes, your energy changes, the way you go out into the world changes. There's a little bit of more flair and confidence in you, and then you become more magnetic. And the next thing you know is like, oh, I just got a new job. I didn't even.
Absolutely.
But if I'm approaching it with like, oh, I need to work to survive and I need to work hard, and if I'm approaching it that way, then A, you're not magnetic. B, you're approaching it from a fearful. You might accept a job that comes into your world. I'm using this as an example, of course, that is not even actually aligned with you, but you just said yes because you got to survive.
Yes, correct.
And then you end up being in a toxic job and you end up hating your job and hating yourself. And you're like, why am I doing this again? Why am I here? Why am I living this whole experience again? It's because what entered you into that point was coming from a place of lack, from a place of survival, from a place of I got to work, I got to find a job because I won't survive, versus is this an alignment with me? Does this match my energy? Because I will always survive. I can say no to this, but I'm sure something else will come because I will survive. Like I will survive. So then you become, your boundaries become better.
Yeah.
Your standards become higher. You're not going to just accept anything. And by the way, you can apply this to relationships. You can apply this to career. You can apply this to anything in life, depending on that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I love it because I actually had something very similar happening to me when I went back home. So obviously, I just came back. And for me, for a long time, home was, I needed to get out of there. That was my jail, put it like that, because of a lot of things experienced when I was younger. Nothing traumatic, but it was just heavy for me. And I always wanted to, because the reality is that I never felt like I could express and be myself back home.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Mauritius, the daughter of my mother.
Yes.
And in Madagascar, the daughter of my father.
Yes.
And that was about it.
Yeah.
Me as a woman, as a person, didn't find myself. But when I went back, something magical happened. And it still feel magical because I was able to be myself while accommodating to the environment. I was able to do what I wanted, to speak in a way that my message was still going through. And there was a moment when I was in Mauritius, because obviously I studied in Mauritius so I would spend a bit more time in Mauritius than Madagascar. But I had similar experiences in Madagascar as well, where I would go to certain places and I would have those vivid memories coming back, good and bad, everything. And I literally laughed at myself because I was like, do you remember that these times that you've been, there was memories that was brought up to me that my mom would tell me, she was like, oh, do you remember this? I was like, Mom, and she would be annoyed. She's like, you really don't remember that? And I'm like, I promise you, I don't remember. And it was just a phenomenal experience because in the end, what I got from that was that I made peace with these memories. I was thinking about it and I was like, if I didn't go through all of these experiences in both islands, I would have never left to go to London. I would have never been in Dubai, and I've never be the woman who I am today. And that's fine, and you make that piece of like, okay, then it's okay. You've done a great job, you know? And then afterwards, there was a moment where I was thinking, oh, if I go back home, it will look like a failure. No, I literally switched off that. And I was like, if you go back home means whatever you've learned was meant for you to learn.
Of course.
Now you bring that back home.
It's a different identity.
Exactly. And that moment, it just shifts.
Yeah.
And you start...
It's a healing.
Exactly. And you start feeling uncomfortable in places that you thought was safe. You feel the shift. You feel like the sadness that I had leaving home, I keep saying it because I never had that. Before, it was like, right, I'm going to see mom and dad and then I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I was so emotional leaving. Good. And I was emotional not just leaving, but the amount of like enlightenment I had in a short amount of time was crazy.
Beautiful. I mean, that's why. So what happened in my world when I look at that, I look at the old identity and the new identity merging as one. Because what happened, you made peace with the old identity. There was an old narrative that you sold yourself that I can't express myself until I leave this environment. I can't be who I truly am, And then when you left, you spread your wings, you evolved an identity. And when you came back, you made peace with that version of you that thought that way, because that version of you actually allowed you to go and experience what you experienced and to leave your home. But also coming back, you merged, and that's where the healing aspect comes in. The shift happens where both of you merged as one in peace, but you're now a whole complete. You're more whole, if you know what I mean. So there's not running away. In fact, you've made more of a connection. Now, the environment will always dictate how we think and feel.
Yeah.
So when you went back, you were looking at the environment, but you were not dictating it as an old way of thinking. You were perceiving it in a new way of thinking. So you had a
Absolutely.
different relationship with the environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had a different
Absolutely.
relationship with how you saw your mom, how you saw the people, you had a more of an appreciation for this beautiful place, right? For Mauritius, which by the way, I'm excited to build a relationship with too. But you got what I mean? So in that context, it changes the dynamic. And in fact, now you feel like you have so much more to offer that part.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's a great message for everyone
Absolutely.
not necessarily to think that the places that they thought was negative, when they go back with a different level of mind, because that's what happened, you have a different relationship with it as well.
Exactly. Because for me, I remember when the war situation happened, if someone told me you can always go back home, I would be like, no, I am not going back home. Like, this is not happening. But now I'm like, okay, if let's say I have to go back home, I'm cool with the idea as well.
Well, you're lucky because you have a beautiful home. Like
Thank you.
it's like, you still have a beautiful home, and I said, like, you have to be honestly grateful for the fact that you have that door. A lot of people don't.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? A lot of people, you say to them, home is it's war torn, or it's hard, or it's poor, or it's underprivileged, or so some people don't even have the choice,
Absolutely.
so knowing that you have a choice should also make you feel even more grateful for that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Honestly, every single day I was waking up back home, whether that was Madagascar or Mauritius, because they're very different. But the level of gratitude,
Fantastic.
and I mean, even now, today I'm here and I'm like, I'm still very grateful to be living here as well.
Yes, of course. Of course.
So,
I still believe we live in one of the best
absolutely.
cities in the world. I'm very grateful. I mean, this is the land of my birth. This is the land of my daughter's birth. And I really call this place home. But home is where the heart is as well, right? It's where, where your heart is. If your heart is here, it'll become home, and you will meet your tribe, and you will make it. But it's also trusting that heart to be able to follow it, That's important,
Absolutely. Sam, unfortunately, we're running out of time.
That's beautiful.
But I must say that conversation was beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you feel like there's anything that we missed out before I go towards my rapid fire question?
I mean, I want to always say, send a message out to everyone to remember that they must be gentle on themselves when they feel anxious or uncertain in these times of uncertainty. To remember that it's okay, it's really okay, and just to remind themselves that they are safe, and a practice that I guide everyone all the time is to just calm the nervous system, breathe slowly through the heart, build a relationship with your mind, and remember, your mind is trying to protect you at the end of the day. It's not it's so then there's these normal reactions that we have, which is the anxiety with the fear or everything. This is just the mind trying to preserve you, trying to bring you into something familiar, and we are moving into what is known unfamiliar. This is the new familiar, the unfamiliar. And my invite to everyone is learn to cultivate that, learn to develop the skill set, the mindset, and to, because really, if there was ever a time, this is the time. This is the time to develop that, to invest in your mind, to invest in yourself, to empower you. Because if you don't, and you just try and distract yourself with other things, with fillers or distortion, they're just gonna, it's not going to dissolve. It's not going to really resolve that relationship. You want to have a better relationship with the unknown. So yeah. Thank you so much again for the invite.
Thank you. That was beautiful. But before I leave you, we have to do a tradition.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Maybe you need to remind me.
The rapid fire question.
Oh, the rapid fire question. Someone leaves me a question, or you ask me a question?
I ask you a question,
sure.
And you just
okay, sure.
with whatever comes to your mind first.
Sure.
Okay. So one word to describe the human mind under pressure.
One word to describe the human mind under pressure. I would say vulnerable.
Okay. Anxiety. Is it enemy or messenger?
It's a messenger.
Control or surrender?
Surrender.
Awareness or avoidance?
Awareness.
What grounds you instantly?
Breath.
A habit that silently destroys mental peace?
Phone.
A belief people need to let go as soon as possible?
That they're not good enough.
I love that. Your non-negotiable daily practice?
Connecting to your heart.
One thing people should stop doing during chaos.
Watching the news.
One thing people should start doing today.
Learning to cultivate a better relationship with their mind.
I love that. And we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to wish you all the very best with your beautiful unknown venture. The world of the unknown is where infinite opportunities and possibilities exist. Get excited. I mean that. Get excited, because with the excitement, beautiful things, unfold.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
And on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. And I'll see you in the next one.